Are you a sad individual living under a Parisian opera house and dropping chandeliers on people's heads for fun? Well, you may want to stop because that's a crime and get yourself a podcast. How do you do that? Easy. It's with Anchor. Anchor is a totally free app and website, and you can record from your phone or your computer. You don't need fancy smancy equipment. Seriously, I have recorded podcasts from my bathtub while I was bathing. Anchor is free and super easy to use. Anchor has really simple podcasting tools. You sign up and then you start podcasting. It really is that simple. Within an hour of starting my podcast, I was already distributed on Spotify. Now I'm on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, and Radio Public. So look for the app or the website. The website is anchor.fm, and the app, just go to your friendly local app store and look up Anchor. That's ANCHOR. Happy podcasting! Hey, this is Sarah from the Koi Slutty Breakfast podcast, and welcome to the podcast. Today we are discussing Season 2, Episode 18, The Risky Business of the Fox drama, The O.C. So before we really begin, I'd like to apologize for the sound. Right now I'm recording in the bathroom due to COVID-19. Uber shut down the Greenlight Hub, so my husband's working at home and my daughter's about, so there's really no place for me to record well, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to record in the bathroom that well because, people need to record in the bathroom. I don't want to record outside because it's cold. So I am not at all sure when this episode will be coming out. I'm working on it. But anyway, let's get into it. Start out this episode, I want to start about the movie where it takes its title from. Risky Business is the 1983 film starring Tom Cruise and I forgot her name. She plays Chloe Decker's mother on Lucifer, and Dorothy Walker on Jessica Jones. And then there's the guy he played Metatron in Supernatural, doing really great with this era. But anyway, so basically the gist of the plot is that this guy Joel, he is going into business and his parents leave on a trip, so he has the house to himself. So he ends up calling a call girl, as you do, I guess, and they spend the night together, and she ends up stealing this glass egg, and shenanigans ensue, and Joel's car gets destroyed, and he basically ends up running a brothel into his house to pay for it, and long story short, the egg gets a crack in it. And honestly, it's not one of my favorite movies, but it kind of helps to understand the backstory of that to watch this episode, because I can imagine a lot of people not having the context, being like, what's the deal with the egg? So there you go. Da 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 da. I can't sing. Hello, I am back again. It's been about a week since I last recorded because for some reason I just could not. And I've learned in these trying times that if you can afford it, the best thing you can do for yourself is to practice self-care. So I've been kind of putting the podcast away. I know that makes me a really bad podcaster, but you gotta do what you gotta do to take care of yourself. So anyway, hopefully this will be up later on Thursday. I'm not sure when, but I'm going to try and finish it up. But so this might come off as a different format, so I'm going to see what works. Maybe I'll really love this, maybe I will really hate it. But anyway, here we go. This is the one where Trey is still living with the Coens, and things they're going pretty well. Trey wants to get a place to live because living with his little brother and sleeping in the same bedroom with him is just not his cup of tea, which is completely understandable. So he decides to try and get an apartment. The other story is that Kirsten basically dupes Sandy into becoming a chairman, saying that it's like a figurehead position for something like the Newport auction or something. It's like a yard sale that's not taking place on a yard. But anyway, it turns out that it's super important, and she lied to him, and Kirsten's kind of a douche. But anyway, so Sandy makes all kinds of power plays to, basically make the Noop's life miserable. Because why not? I mean, he's been basically tricked into this position, so why not make everybody else suffer? I don't know, man. That's not my POV, but okay. And Julie and Caleb are going off on another trip. No idea. I mean, personally, if it were me, I would have stayed, but I'm not rich and socially, so whatever. So Julie asked if it's okay if Marissa stays at the Cohens, which, good parenting from Julie. Love to see it. Because Marissa hasn't really been acting the most trustworthy, and Julie knows that the Cohens will keep her safe, or at least hopes, which is very nice. So there's this really weird thing where Marissa's packing to go to the Cohens, and Summer's like ribbing her about like some sexy thing she's wearing, and I was like, oh, come on, Summer, you're being ridiculous. And then she pulls this thing out, and Summer's not wrong. It basically looked to me like a cotton bustier, like, because it had cups and it looked like it was ribbed. It did not look like very comfortable sleepwear. Like, Marissa, what are you doing? Like, your choices are flannel jammies and that? There's got to be a happy meaning, Marissa. Come on, Coop. But anyway, so Sandy enlists Seth and Ryan and Trent to help out with the yard sale. And Seth is being all weird and taking pictures, and then the egg from Risky Business comes into play, and Seth makes very sure to mention the crack in it, which, okay. But he gets really weird. He's like, yes, give me sexy. And Zach comes in, and they start talking about the comic. And, like, at first he's like, oh, no, that was a terrible idea. And they actually end up talking to Carter, who is very enthusiastic about the idea, about the comic. And Seth is going to tell Summer, but she's like, yeah, if you're going to talk to me about the comic, I don't want to hear about it at all. So things are weird with Carter and Kirsten. Like, ever since the whole thing, like, hey, if I made you awkward, has made everything, like, 12 times more awkward, because Sandy really likes Carter, which is not a surprise, because they're very, very much the same. It's interesting that Kirsten is portrayed as being pretty conservative, but her taste in men says otherwise, doesn't it? But anyway, so Trey is looking for an apartment, and Marissa tells him that she knows about this apartment, and it turns out it was the one that she and Alex lived in, because Alex went back to her parents, and they better treat her right, because I don't think she shows up on the show again, which is kind of a bummer, because I liked Alex before she went psycho cuckoo jealous. But anyway, so they're at the apartment, and the guy tells him, like, he needs first and last month's rent and a deposit, and Trey's like, I'm not sure I had that, and Marissa's like, oh, well, Trey can fix things, and they come to this idea that in exchange for rent, he'll fix, like, the plumbing, because apparently the guy hired just
it's not working out. Very sad. So he's at home waiting, and then the guy calls him back and he's like, I'm sorry, your background check is like not gone through. Because, I mean, yeah, Trey would be a felon. And Marissa, for some reason, is listening in on the other line. Which I gotta tell you, I'm really grateful for cell phones for that reason, because this is a thing that would not happen if you had a cell phone. But it's weird. Why would she listen? Just like as of late, like Marissa's the worst. It's really weird because when I first watched the show, I really liked Marissa, but like as it goes on, she just becomes less and less likable and like more intrusive, I guess. And the thing about Trey not being able to get an apartment like really sucks. I believe the word generally uses recidivism. I may have gotten that wrong. I should probably look it up, but oh well. This is just like a freewheeling podcast now. Just get it while the getting gets done, right? Yeah. So, the fact is that people who have committed felonies, like presumably when they went to jail, they did their time, so they've been punished for it. So, the idea that like there are certain jobs that they can't get, they can't live in certain places. I mean, how are you supposed to function if you already did your time, if you already paid your debt to society? How are you supposed to function like that when the deck is so highly stacked against you? I mean, like, even like you murdered somebody and you spent like 10, 15 years in jail. Like, you did your time and you probably deserve another chance, like depending on like if it's like not serial killing or mass murder or something like that. But honestly, if somebody's convicted of murder, that literally just means that they were convicted of murder. It doesn't really mean guilty or innocence, because in this country we have a legal system, not a justice system. And you know what? I'm totally ranting. So I'm gonna stop this for a bit and come back to it later when I'm a little less passionate. Okay, see you soon.
And here we are in the bathroom again. So, where were we on this episode of the OC? Okay, so it's early in the morning, and Ryan wakes up, and Trey is gone. I keep on wanting to call him Trevor. I don't know why. But I've said that sentence like 3 times and deleted it. But anyway, I could have just not let that go. But anyway, so Ryan's waiting for him when he comes home, and Trey says that the guy at the apartment needed some walls done. Something to do with plaster, and Ryan's like, uh-huh. And Trey's all, well, you have to wait for the plaster to dry to paint it, which, true, but we know that he's not telling the truth. So later on, he brings Marissa breakfast in the pool house, and she's like, no, I'm not hungry, and things are awkward, and Trey's trying to be nice, and she's like, look, I overheard your phone call, and I don't think I'll get over how annoyed I am with her for that, because it's not her house. If it were her house, okay, it would be a little bit understandable. But she's listening in on phone conversations of this guy that she barely knows, and it's not even her house. That is so rude. Like, in her way, Marissa is just as mannerless and entitled as Caleb. But anyway, so he's like, oh, you're gonna tell Ryan? And she's like, no, I want to help you. And this also really annoys me because I get where she's coming from. I get that things are going great with her and Ryan's friendship. She doesn't want to start the trials and tribulations of drama again because her mother ran off out of country with her tail tucked between her legs. Like, she just wants things to be copacetic, and that's that's honorable, you know, it really is. But the fact is that this is something that the Coens should know. Because are you honestly going to tell me that Sandy Cohen is going to hear about this 20-year-old guy who, like, served his time and now can't find a place to live and he won't help him? Because I think he would, you know? I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I guess Marissa doesn't know Sandy well enough, but she should. After, like, she lived next to the Coens for years. I I don't know. It's just it's weird to me, and it just seems to like be for the purpose of starting this drama. But whatever. So Trey and Ryan and Sandy like are all at this auction thing, and Marissa has found this tea set. Oh, I forgot about that. Like, so Marissa is in the basement and she's looking for stuff for the auction so that she can get the money to Troy. And Summer comes in. She's like, "Oh, there's no torture equipment in here," which, knowing Caleb, understandable. But she finds this tea set and she's like, "Oh, that's from wherever it was." And it was made in the 1870s. And apparently, Summer's a huge Antiques Roadshow fan, which is interesting. It's kind of like the Madame Bovary thing. Like, it doesn't really seem in her character, but okay, sure. Madame Bovary was such a boring book. I just don't see how Summer would be into it unless it was a sea anemone thing. Ugh. Anyway, so Marissa brings in the tea set and Brian takes it to tag it, and he notices that the egg is gone, the famed glass egg from Risky Business. And I don't remember if I mentioned it before, but there's a song from the movie Risky Business. It's by Tangerine Dream. That's what I remember. I can't remember what it's called, but it keeps on randomly playing during moments in this episode, and it's just a really fun callback. It's also a really good song. If I remember, I'll look up what it was and I'll put it in the description of this episode because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed hearing it. So we are on to the Summer Zach and Seth show, and speaking of trials and tribulations, Carter has come by and he's like, "Oh, by the way, I got you a meeting with somebody with a graphic novel." And Seth's and Zach's rationalization is that, "Oh, well, it's a graphic novel, it's not a comic book, so it'll be totally okay." But that's just kind of being crappy. So anyway, Summer finds out about this and she's like, "Nope, nope, nope, I do not want this destroying our friendship. Promise me that you won't." And for some reason, Summer and Zach are trying to get into baseball cards. It's very confusing and very weird. So, back to the Risky Business egg. I'm not sure how I feel about. I mean, logically it makes sense, but I kind of feel that honestly, Ryan should have more faith in Trey because there's really nothing that he's done to prove that he's a criminal. But then again, he just did get out of jail, and the reason Ryan was busted was because Trey stole a car. So, I don't know. I mean, I know how this works out, but I'm thinking of now, like, as this point of time as it's happening. But then again, Ryan doesn't really trust anybody, so yeah, I guess it kind of is in character. And so Ryan confronts Trey about the missing egg, and Trey tries to play it off at first. Then he's like, "Okay, yeah, I didn't get the apartment, so I stole it." And then he's like, I've got to tell everybody. And Trey's like, no, no. And then he hands Ryan the money, and Ryan and Seth scamper off to go fetch the egg. And Seth goes with Ryan because he's apparently very bored and upset that he has no trauma in his life, because he's like, well, if I go with you, nobody will believe that you can be doing anything to get in trouble, because nobody ever lets me do anything worrisome. Which, seriously, Seth, be grateful for that. So, in the meantime, while on the auction, Sandy is auctioneering very well, and Summer and Marissa go up to be assistants to distract from the fact that there is no precious risky business eggy-wag. So they're doing that. Summer tries to sell her shoes, and a man who Summer presumes is a foot fetishist buys it for $60, and it's like, really, Summer? What did you think would happen? You sold a shoe off your foot. That's kind of a thing for foot fetishists. But whatever. So anyway, they end up auctioning off Zach and Trey, and Trey ends up going for $400, so good for him. So Kirsten buys the tea set that Marissa put up to sale, and it turns out that was Kirsten's mother's tea set. But she's not mad about it. She has her mom's tea set back, so she's good. So that's a nice ending for that story. But anyway, so Seth and Ryan go to this house and ask about the egg. Seth tries to claim that like Tom Cruise sent him, and it's like obviously such crap. So Ryan, Seth's talking, sneaks up behind them and tries to grab the egg. The guys in the house threaten to kill them over a glass egg. I mean, it's an expensive glass egg, but still, it's a glass egg. So they go out running, and Ryan has the egg, so he ends up tossing it to Seth, and Seth actually catches it. Surprise, surprise, it does not break, which, I mean, honestly, if I hadn't seen it before, actually, I'm pretty sure, like, I was convinced that it was gonna be completely busted, or, like, the wrong egg, you know. But anyway, so they make it just in time for, well, Summer and Marissa just can't stall anymore. And the whole meanwhile, like, Sandy's like, what the hell is going on? It's great acting by Peter Gallagher, and Rachel Bilson is hilarious. So anyway, Seth's like, oh, this is amazing. We all got together and we saved the day. This is like a comic book. Yeah, that's not foreshadowing anything at all. But anyway, so they get the egg back. Then everybody's home and stuff, and Sandy goes to Ryan and Seth in the kitchen, and he's like, look, if there's something wrong, and I think it has to do with Trey, then you need to tell me. And then he leaves. And so Trey is alone in the room, and Marissa's like, hey, I said that I would have your back, and I got the money for you. And Trey's like, oh, thank you, that's so nice. And he's like, I just wanted to do it by myself, you know, except for the help of the people who were fencing the egg. But otherwise, totally independent. He's an independent boy who doesn't need no Ryan. Or something. I don't even... Just, whatever. So... Anyway, so at the very end, Marissa and Ryan are sitting out in the backyard, and they're talking, and Marissa's like, oh, well, I got Trey the money, so he's moving to Alex's apartment, which, okay, what? Okay, if Trey didn't pass the background test, check. No. Well, I mean, I guess you could call it a test, because if you don't pass it, you fail. Okay, so it's a background test. I have made it so. So he didn't pass the background test, which means that he would not get into the apartment, because it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you don't pass the background check, then it doesn't really matter. Trust me, I know. I've had medical debt and I failed a background check because of that, which, by the way, not supposed to be legal, but only like enforceable as like breaking the law if you have money for a lawyer, which, I mean, yeah, I had money for an apartment, not for a lawyer. But anyway, enough about me. But anyway, it's like, did they not know how apartments work? Or maybe that's explained in the next episode. I don't remember the next episode. All I remember is that this is the beginning of Trey's downsliding. Like, see, before this, I was really liking Trey's character. And I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, by the end of the season, not so much. Now, don't get me wrong, Logan Marshall Green is like, or is it Green Marshall? It's some combination of those names. He's a great actor. I don't remember if I mentioned it before, but he was in a movie called Upgrade, which I really enjoyed till the end. And that's all I'm going to say about it. But if you don't mind movies with like gore, I'd recommend it. And then like I would like to know what people thought of the ending of the movie because I hated it. And if you want to talk about it, we can talk about why I hated it. But I want people to see this movie because up until that point, it's really good. Like the acting is phenomenal, and yeah. Anyway, getting off the subject. So anyway, I started this on March 18th. I'm not going to tell you what day I finished it, but it took me way too long. And hopefully I will be able to get to a point where I'll be able to podcast more regularly. But if you've gotten to this point, thank you so much for listening. It means the world to me. It's been weird. It's been a weird month. I'm sure you'll agree. But anyway, hopefully I'll be able to adjust more now that I know more of what's going on. Like, we know that it's at least till May, so at least we have that going for us, right? Right. Anyway, have a happy day and keep it fruity.